Do you feel safe? In zoos? Could it be possible? An animal is a serial killer of people, and nothing is done about it. Or this? A gorilla tortures a little boy, but the giant primate is defended by Elon Musk himself? Today, I will tell you about these and other well-known cases of terrible incidents in zoos around the world. Attack at the Novosibirsk Zoo. The jaguar is one of the most powerful and elusive wildcats. It has strong jaws, a powerful body, and a swift hunting instinct. But despite its fearsome reputation, jaguar attacks on humans, especially in zoos, are extremely rare. The causes of such incidents are usually rooted in stress, territorial or offspring protection, and most importantly, a sudden violation of boundaries. In the summer of 2013, a tragedy occurred at the Novosibirsk Zoo. A worker, who had worked with animals for many years, entered the enclosure with a female jaguar named Bella and her 7-month-old cub. According to the rules, animals must be isolated during cleaning. But on that day, the dividing partition was left open. The predator did not hesitate. She attacked swiftly, broke the woman's spine, and tore her throat. The screams could be heard even through the thick glass. But it was too late. The medics could only confirm the death. This incident sparked a discussion about how reliable the security systems in zoos are. The management stated that the jaguar would not be put down. The animal acted according to its nature, and it was a human error that was to blame. The question of why the partition was not checked before the work began remains unanswered. The well-known animal trainer Mstislav Zapashy then said, "Predators are born to attack. Their calmness is an illusion. All tragedies occur when rules are broken. The animal is not to blame for anything. That's how it is made." This incident reminded us that wild nature is not a backdrop or an attraction. Even a tamed animal remains a predator, and the price for the illusion of safety can be too high. An elephant killed a zoologist in Moscow. In October morning. In 2007 in Moscow began with a tragedy. In the elephant house of the Moscow Zoo, a woman who had dedicated almost her entire life to these giants. Olga Grishina had worked with elephants for 25 years. She didn't just take care of them, she lived among them. And the elephants, according to her colleagues, saw her almost as a mother. But it was her love for these majestic animals that proved fatal. The zoo was preparing to move part of the herd to Barcelona. The new elephant house had space for only 3 out of 6 animals. The rest were decided to be sent to Spain, formally for a time, but in fact forever. The move was planned without anesthesia, with the two-nation standard. First, a mild sedative there, and then an antidote in the cage. But on the day, the zoo didn't have the necessary medications. The situation quickly got out of control. The elephants were nervous, trumpeting, and running around. The atmosphere resembled a war zone, with the only difference being that the enemy was fear and panic. Olga entered the enclosure, trying to calm the anxiety. At that moment, one of the elephants named Betty, in a panic, struck her and trampled her. Everything happened in a matter of seconds. The elephant had been living in the zoo for 22 years and had never shown aggression before. But even the most peaceful animals can snap when they find themselves in situations beyond their understanding and habits. This incident served as a reminder. Elephants are not just large mammals. They are creatures with immense strength, delicate psyches, and unpredictable reactions to stress. Working with them requires the highest level of expertise. According to the guidelines, there should be at least 2 specialists in the same room with the elephant. Each one has a stun baton or a special stick with a sharp hook. But no regulations can bring back a lost life. This tragedy once again proved that even the warmest relationships with an animal do not negate instinct and fear. And those who share space with wildlife every day are always at risk, even if they believe they are loved. Gorilla Harambe and the boy in Cincinnati. Gorillas are peaceful, social animals. But when their territory boundaries are violated, especially when they are anxious, they can become unpredictable. This is exactly what happened in May 2016 at the Cincinnati Zoo. A 3-year-old boy climbed through the barrier and fell into the moat with a gorilla named Harambe, a 17-year-old male weighing several hundred pounds. The animal grabbed the child. For 10 minutes, the gorilla dragged the child around the enclosure, causing panic among visitors and staff. The zoo staff faced an agonizing decision. Using a tranquilizer meant risking the child's life. The sedative does not work instantly, and any delay could have been fatal. Then, the security decided to shoot the gorilla. The boy was saved. He escaped with minor injuries. But the story didn't end there. Harambe's death sparked a storm of public outrage. Hundreds of thousands of people signed petitions demanding the parents be punished for negligence. There were also accusations against the zoo. They said it could have been handled differently. The zoo director responded directly. The staff acted flawlessly, as there can be no compromises when a child's life is at stake. This incident sparked widespread public resonance and became a symbol of complex moral choices at the boundary between human safety and the fate of a wild animal. And 3 years later, on March 30th, 2019, entrepreneur Elon Musk released a music track dedicated to Harambe, as a reminder of the tragedy that left a mark far beyond the zoo. A bison attacked a girl. The bison is a giant of the North American prairies. Peaceful in appearance, it has been a symbol of strength and survival for centuries. But this herbivorous colossus, weighing up to 900 pounds, becomes unpredictable when it feels threatened, especially if there are calves nearby. In the summer of 2019, an incident occurred in Yellowstone National Park that quickly spread across the internet. A 9-year-old girl got too close to the bison. Whether they are predators or not, it didn't matter. The animals suddenly lunged forward and tossed her into the air in front of shocked tourists. In the video recorded by eyewitnesses, you can see the bison standing calmly in the meadow at first, but in the next second, it makes a swift lunge, and the child flies through the air like a rag doll. Fortunately, the girl survived. She was hospitalized, but serious injuries were avoided. Nevertheless, this incident served as a stark reminder. In the wild, there are no stage boundaries. Here, the animal is not an exhibit, but the master. The park administration has warned repeatedly. Approaching large animals closer than 25 yards is strictly prohibited. That day, the distance was less than 2. People got too close, as if forgetting that Yellowstone is not a set or an open-air zoo. It is a living, pristine nature. And even the calmest bison can turn into an uncontrollable force in a split second. The orca is a serial killer. The most formidable predator of the ocean, contrary to stereotypes, is neither the shark nor the whale. It is the orca, a marine dolphin that combines intelligence, strength, and hunting instinct. In the wild, they hunt in a coordinated manner, almost like wolves, and can even take down a large whale. But in captivity, their behavior changes. Psychological overload, monotonous conditions, monotony, all of this builds up aggression, like a compressed spring. Among all known orcas, one gained worldwide infamy. Tilikum, a male weighing 5 tons and about 7 yards long. He became known not only for his size, but also for tragic events. Initially, he lived in the Canadian water park Sealand of the Pacific. That's where the first tragedy occurred. One of the trainers went into the water and the animal. They grabbed her, tossing her from mouth to mouth. The woman died. After that, the orca was transferred to the American SeaWorld. A few years later, in 1999, a man's body was found in the pool with the orcas. According to the investigation, a visitor stayed in the water park after closing and possibly jumped into the water himself. His body was found in the morning, floating on the surface next to Tilikum. But the truly loud incident occurred. On February 24th, 2010. During a performance, Tilikum was in the pool with trainer Dawn Brancho. Witnesses reported that just moments before the tragedy, the woman was lying on her stomach, right at the edge, face to face with the orca. Her hair, tied in a ponytail, ended up in the animal's mouth. This, as experts suggest, could have been a trigger, a game or instinct, but within seconds the situation spiraled out of control. The staff tried to corral the orca into a net, but it was already too late. Dawn's body was retrieved 20 minutes later. Despite this, Tilikum continued to participate in the show until 2016, only a lung disease took him out of the program. In January 2017, he died. Tilikum's fate is both a symbol and a warning. Even the smartest and friendliest looking animal remains a part of the wild. And when it is confined in a concrete tank, ignoring its instincts and needs, the consequences can be fatal. Not only for the animal, but also for humans. The unfortunate truck driver. April 2013. A private zoo near the village of Redkino in the Tiva region. A typical Saturday morning turned into a bloody episode, worthy of the chronicles of the most absurd and tragic incidents. A 34-year-old truck driver named Alexei decided to feed the animals some sausage. But before approaching the cage, the man crossed the iron fence to relieve himself right next to the enclosure. And then, as if forgetting that he was not facing a domestic cat, he began to tease the predator. In front of him was a tiger named Barsik. And when Alexei slipped and fell to the ground, the animal did not hesitate. He instantly latched onto the intruder's leg. It all happened in front of other visitors, including children. Doctors managed to save his life, but not the limb. The man had his leg amputated. Attacks by lions and tigers on humans in captivity are rare, but each one serves as a warning. Even if the predator appears well-fed, lazy, and almost tame, its instincts haven't gone anywhere. It still reacts to aggression invading its space. And the difference between a fence and a cage is illusory. Step over the line, and nature reminds you of itself with all its brutality. This incident became yet another example of how a lack of basic caution can turn into a tragedy. Respect for wildlife is not an option, but a necessity. A lion in the Crimean Park. October 2024. Crimean Taigon Lion Park. A place where predators peacefully bask in the sun, welcoming tourists on open safaris, suddenly became the scene of a tragedy. 2 lions attacked and mauled the manager, Leocadia Paravolova. The woman, who had worked in this park for 17 years, entered the enclosure and, as it was later discovered, did not close the latch between the sections. The predators came out instantly. She could not be saved. The park director, Olga Zubkov, described the deceased as an experienced specialist. He emphasized that the animals could not open the latch themselves. The mistake was human. But why did it happen? How could a woman with such experience forget the main rule? Discussions began. Some talked about fatigue, about the routine that dulls attention. There were also technical complaints, reliability of the system, availability of insurance, clear safety protocols. The investigative committee announced the results of the inspection. Even professionals are not immune to risk. Working with predators requires not only knowledge, but also full concentration. Every day, every minute. The behavior of colleagues also raised separate questions. Why? Didn't help arrive immediately? Where was the practice coordination? Where was the emergency response? The tragedy in Taigon became a bitter reminder. Wild nature always remains wild. And between a human and a predator, there is not a barrier, but only a thin line of attention and discipline. Break it, and the price can be fatal. The wolf pack attack. Everything happened on June 17, 2012, at the Harambe Zoo, located near the Swedish city of Norrköping. A 30-year-old employee entered the enclosure with 8 wolves. The predator suddenly attacked and inflicted fatal injuries on her. The woman had a radio, but she didn't have time to use it. When rescuers and medics arrived at the scene, aggressive animals hindered their entry for a long time. This was not the first alarming signal. Back in April of the same year, a wolf bit a 15-year-old girl. And in the summer of the previous year, another visitor was injured, but none of these incidents caused a strong reaction. In Sweden, wolves are traditionally not considered dangerous to humans. Harambe and Zoo is one of the largest in Europe. Its pride is the spacious enclosures without cages. Animals there are kept in conditions as close to the wild as possible. Visitors could even enter the enclosures with guides. It is this program that is believed to have led to the tragedy. After the incident, the zoo abruptly revised its safety rules. Tours inside the enclosures with predators were cancelled. A large-scale inspection began, from the conditions of animal care to the internal communication system. The investigation revealed that on that day, the employee entered the enclosure alone. This was in accordance with the regulations, but on that particular day, the pack behaved differently. Experts believe that the wolves might have reacted to a disruption in hierarchy or a perceived threat to their territory. A tiger in the Borneo Zoo. The Amur tiger is a solitary predator, accustomed to vast spaces and silence. It inhabits the forests of the Far East and is extremely protective of its territory. All known attacks on humans by the Amur tiger occur not because of the tiger, but due to people who have crossed its boundaries. One such incident happened in April 2016 at the Forest Tail Park in Borneo. In the evening, after closing time, 2 schoolgirls entered the restricted area and didn't just approach the enclosure. One of them climbed over the fence to tease the predator. The tiger, weighing about 600 pounds, reacted instantly. It grabbed the girl by the legs, inflicting deep lacerations. She was saved only by the intervention of passers-by, who distracted the animal and then called for help. The teenager was able to undergo surgery and avoided disability. Alcohol was found in her blood. half a per mil. This once again emphasized that tragedies often result not from the cruelty of the animal, but from human recklessness. The incident revealed several vulnerabilities at once: insufficient territory protection, weak access control, lack of warning systems. The zoo increased security, but questions remained. Why were the teenagers able to enter the dangerous zone without any obstacles? Who is responsible? The administration, which failed to provide protection, or the trespassers who ignored the danger? The Amur tiger remained in the zoo, and there was a certain logic to this decision. He acted on instinct. As always, in such stories, the predator becomes a mirror. And it reflects not savagery, but the mistakes of civilization. Revenge on the lion in Kabul. The story that happened in Kabul in 2009 sounds like an ancient tragedy. It has everything: pride, death, revenge, and an inexorable chain of events that defies common sense. In the zoo of the Afghan capital, a young man climbed over the enclosure of the lion's den. He did not respond to the shouts of onlookers or the warnings of the staff. It all happened as if he wanted to prove something. His strength, courage, or perhaps invulnerability. What exactly drove him to this step remains unknown. There were many theories: rage, alcohol, drugs, but no evidence was found. It all pointed to him acting deliberately. Maybe he wanted to impress the crowd, tempt fate, or make a demonstrative gesture that would be remembered. But the lion perceived the man as a threat. Everything happened swiftly. One leap, and the man's body was in the predator's paws. The witnesses didn't even have time to react. It seemed that the story could have ended there. But it took a new, even darker turn. Sometime later, an explosion occurred in the same enclosure. The bomb was planted by the deceased brother. He infiltrated the zoo grounds and attempted to take revenge. Not on a person, not on the circumstances, but on the animal. The lion survived but was injured. Thus, the tragedy turned into an act of barbaric revenge, as if from the chronicles of a blood feud. Rationality is powerless here. Only pain, rage, and senseless cruelty remain, with which humanity repeatedly confronts when facing the wild in itself. If you find yourself face to face with a wild animal, instinct might suggest one thing: to run. But that's exactly what you shouldn't do. Don't run, don't make sudden movements, don't make noise, don't look at it. Direct eye contact is perceived as a challenge. If the situation escalates, defense becomes necessary. Everything comes into play: a stick, a stone, a backpack, pepper spray. In these simple yet profound rules lies the strategy for survival.